How we turn it? There we go. There we go. Welcome. Welcome. Can you hear me?
I hear you, Gary.
Oh,
Do you hear
great,
me?
Great. I'm going to get on this side.
Okay.
I know I'm blocking some, but you can see he will be up on the big screen momentarily. Oh, there he is, bigger than life right there. It's amazing. Welcome. Now, some people had heard that you were preaching today. To those people, I give my sincere, I'm sorry. It just kind of got misconstrued. Bo was in town a couple of weeks ago for a funeral. His uncle, Charlie Carpenter, passed, and he came in for that. But you didn't get to talk to everybody. You just got a little segment there. So I wanted to bring him back and just kind of chat with him a little bit and see how life in Phoenix, Arizona is. So are you ready for the questions?
I am ready.
Okay. Wait a minute.
We've already done this once.
I'm ready now. How have you adjusted to retirement?
I have adjusted amazingly well. I was born for this. It's great.
But you don't play golf or anything, so.
No.
But you still seem to occupy your time. What's a typical day look like, Bo?
Oh, well, one of the nice things is that I can have a nice, leisurely, quiet time reading my Bible, praying, and I can actually read my Bible and not be thinking about a sermon. Yeah. I think there's a sermon here. I can just read the Bible for my own edification, which is really wonderful. I'm always available to help and serve Janie by running errands and things like that. And 2 days a week, I help my daughter homeschool her two oldest children, which I just absolutely love. So, every day's different, but full.
Yeah, because how long did you give sermon? 35 years?
Oh, my goodness. I've been 40 years, basically.
40 years.
Yeah.
Now, that's a treadmill. I give a sermon every year, and it's a lot of pressure. I can't imagine doing it 40 years, once, twice a week. No wonder you have gray hair, man. I mean, it's rough.
I can't either. I look back and I think, how did I do that? Except that you do it one sermon at a time, fortunately. Yeah. But yeah, it was a long time of being in that mode.
Well, you did it well, and I don't even have to suck up anymore. You were quite good at it.
Well, I'm going to miss that.
Please?
I'm going to miss that.
Do you still require Janie to call you Pastor Bo?
Well, I don't require it, but she holds me in such high regard that she just does, And just the other day she said, "Hey, Pastor Bo, why don't you get off the couch and make yourself useful, go clean up the kitchen," like that. So old habits die hard.
Yeah, yeah. And the first segment you mentioned that you would go to Home Depot, and I found that extremely shocking. That I don't know why you would ever go to Home Depot. You can't fix anything.
When you move, there are always things that you need, initially to get the house, set up. And I've not become any more handy than I ever was. So don't get the wrong impression. Takes me forever to find things, so that can be an all-day project.
Yeah, it's laid out for the professionals.
It must be.
Hey, I hear, now kudos on hiring Vince. We love Vince here. He hit a home run with that one. Thank you very much for finding that guy.
Thank you, Jesus.
He's got a couple of idiosyncrasies. He makes us repeat stuff a lot, but he lost the kick. He used to have this kick thing going on. That's kind of gone by the wayside. So
okay.
No, I love it. He's good. He's really good.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Now I heard a local church has spent over $100,000 on a search for a new pastor. Mm-hmm. They got the guy in. The guy crashed and burned. Church really didn't do well. How much if they got a loser for $100,000? How much did we have to pay to find a guy like Vince Pieri?
Well, people like Vince don't grow on trees,
Yeah.
So we spared no expense. I opened an account with churchstaffing.com, and I think I think we paid $200 for that.
You know what? Even at $300, he's worth it. He's really
Well,
quite good.
we got Joanna thrown in, so yeah, it was a bargain.
Yeah, yeah. Are you doing any preaching out there?
I filled in for Whitney once, and I got to address a small group of pastors and potential church planters. So that was fun. But other than that, no. You'd be surprised to know how few people have ever heard of me in Arizona. I mean, outside of my grandchildren, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So the invitations are not rolling in.
You mentioned that you watched the sermon. Bo always, after I preached, he would critique me, and he would say, "Gary, you're not allowed to say that." So I hope I've run out of things that I can no longer say, that you've corrected me enough over the last 30 years.
Well, now that you mention it, I'm just hoping that the pastor that you referred to who crashed and burned is not watching online.
Yeah, he's probably moved back to Missouri or somewhere. I'm sorry, I'll be more sensitive next year. What do you miss most about Northern Kentucky? What do you miss most about Northern Kentucky?
Not the weather.
No.
No. I miss the wonderful people of the bridge, and I mean that with all my heart. It was so good to be back just a week or so ago and see so many of you.
Do you miss Tammy Hughes hollering out from the audience?
I'm sorry?
Do you miss Tammy Hughes hollering out from the audience?
Is that you, Tammy?
Yeah, that's her. Yeah. Some things never change.
I do miss that. No, I miss this wonderful congregation that reminded me when I was there 2 weeks ago. I was so blessed because it still felt the same warmth and love and friendliness. And I'll tell you, I left with a full heart after being there.
I'm glad that you felt welcome.
Yes.
Something some of you may not know about Bo is that he is a Big Buddy Holly fan, and he is an official Seinfeld aficionado. I'm going to lob you an easy question here and see if you can get it. What did Jerry name his T-shirt?
Golden Boy.
Golden Boy, that's it. And what did he name the replacement to Golden Boy?
Oh, man. I'm so busy now out here running to Home Depot. I'm not watching reruns like I used to. I don't remember.
I think it was Son of Golden Boy. But
Son of Golden Boy. Well, that would make sense.
Bo, 2020's been tough on everybody. Maybe not you being retired in Phoenix, but the rest of us mere mortals. It's been a pretty tough year. Do you have any encouragement for the bridge?
Oh, wow. It's been a hard year, as we all know. And I think it's been especially hard on churches because what the churches do, they gather and meet and worship and hear God's word. And gathering has been, limited, restricted. So it's been hard on churches. And the question in my mind is, what kind of church is going to emerge out of the coronavirus? What will the coming year look like? And I just want to encourage everybody. First of all, I want to commend you for hanging tough, for being in church, and not, no put down to anybody who wanted to stay home and stay safe. That's good too. And I'm grateful for how you've stayed engaged online. But my hope and my prayer is that the church that emerges out of coronavirus will be stronger and better because we've learned to lean into the Lord more than ever. And that is my encouragement to you, that as you anticipate this coming year, I would encourage you to set spiritual goals of spending time with God and letting Him fill you more and more. Because the best thing that you can do for the church, the best thing you can do for your family and for yourself is to be in as close a relationship with Jesus as you can possibly be. To be spiritually sharp, to be the best version of yourself, which is joined steadfastly to the Lord. So I want to encourage you to just make this coming year a year where you prioritize your relationship with the Lord and you invest time with Him, you know, He has given us His Word, His Spirit. He has given us other believers. He's given us everything that we need to be conformed to the very image of Jesus. And that is our goal, is to be like our Savior, the one that we are following. So that's my hope and my prayer for you at the Bridge. And just remember, I love you. And you're going to hear a great message today. Gary's going to stir your hearts and challenge you by reflecting on some great things God has done. And I truly believe the best days of the Bridge are ahead of us. So God bless you. I love you all. Bye-bye.
Great to see you. Take care. We'll be talking. Can I turn him around? I don't want him watching my back the whole time. See ya.
You don't need me over your shoulder, huh?
No. Get rid of that guy. No, love him like a brother. It's always good to see Pastor Bo, even if it's by video. Good morning. It's great to see all you guys. My name is Gary Dawson, and I do absolutely as little as possible here at the Bridge. I did co-found it with Bo, so that's my claim to fame. Man, what a year this has been. It really has. You know, churches are struggling, like Bo said, and we had the double whammy. Our senior pastor left, bringing Vince in, and COVID, yet the Bridge has remained strong. It's remained strong. We have faithful people. And again, like Bo, hey, if you're staying home for safety, I get it. You know, someday this stuff is going to be behind us. Thank goodness. I turned 70 this year, and this is the toughest year that I remember as far as a country. I mean, I lived through the Bay of Pigs, through Vietnam. I didn't go there, but the riots, everything that went with Vietnam, gas lines, mini skirts. I mean, I lived through it all. And this year has been extremely tough, and it's been tough on families, individuals. So kudos. His word is really, really true. Just press in. Press into God. So, okay, I'm going to share a little bit today about kind of the history. Vince is going to be going into where are we going from here series, I assume. I saw that he's going to be talking about the DNA. And the DNA is that which makes the Bridge what it is, without which it would not be. That's our DNA. What's our DNA? What are those things that are the non-negotiables of the Bridge Community Church? And the scripture I'm going to use for today is Galatians 6:9, if they would put it up there. Boom. Let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. That's the year for that scripture, is don't give up, especially if you're doing good. You know, we're doing good in the church. It's not time to quit. It's not time to chuck it all and say, what's the point? It's time to press in harder. Hurting world out there. They need Jesus more than ever, and we are that source. And the story of the Bridge is a story of perseverance. It's a story, it didn't start here in Alexandria. It didn't start even in Wilder. The story of the Bridge started, I think it was 2006 or 7. It started at Frisch's in Covington. Bo and I were both going through, he had been out of ministry for 2 years. I had gone through a bad period in business that took a lot out of me. We were both kind of miserable. And friends, we kind of get together for a period of almost 2 years. We'd get together once a week or so and just talk and chat. And one day we're meeting, and out of the blue down at Frisch's, and all of a sudden Bo said, you know what? I'm going to start a church. And it's like, well, that's maybe a good idea. And he just started telling me that he feels called, that he was ready, the time was right. He saw the need for a church like he envisioned for the Bridge in Campbell County. There wasn't anything quite like us. I said, that's a good idea, but here are a couple of things that we don't have. And eventually I said, I'm with you. I'm in. I just jumped in and said, you know, because I believe so much in Bo Weaver, that it was like, you know what? If you're ready to do this, I'm ready to fall in right behind you and work with you and help you as much as I can. I said, but what we don't have, we're not part of a denomination, so nobody's going to mail us a big check and say, oh, here, guys, let's go get started on this thing. We had no money between the two of us. We had just been coming out of a tough area financially in our lives. We didn't even have credit. Our credit was probably soured by that point. We had no building even in mind of where we could go to. There was no following. Nobody was looking for a 50-some-year-old pastor that had been out of ministry and a business failure. That wasn't high on people's list of, that's what we're looking for. We didn't have youth anymore. We were both, I was 55, 56. He was in his early 50s. We didn't even have a cheap sound system. We didn't have a karaoke thing that we could use. But what we did have, I had the belief in him that if God's calling you to do this and God's leading me to be a part of it, I want to be a part. Went home, told my wife. She was less enthusiastic than I am. She said, we'll see. She didn't jump right in with both feet, and that's as my wife normally is. For those of you that don't know my wife, Beverly, would you stand up for 1 minute? That is definitely my better half, and anybody that knows me knows that's absolutely true. 48 years of marital bliss. Whew. If you had shot me early, you'd be out by now. So, no, I truly am blessed. But I told Bo, I said, if I'm going to be a part of this, I really want to be the outside guy. I want to see a church that is really focused on reaching the lost. And I know every church ever started says we want to reach the lost. I'm like, I really want to reach the lost. I want to fill the church up with people that don't look like church people. I want to fill it up with people that when they walk in, they can feel the warmth. They can feel, I don't know much about this Jesus, but I felt welcome there. I felt a part of it. So, and he said, you do that, you be the outside guy, I'll be the inside guy. So that's kind of the way we started it. And I was in a unique position at that time. I was running a reuse center, construction material reuse center in Covington, Kentucky. And because I was a nonprofit, I had access to a lot of people who were doing community service. Now, these weren't the community service kids from Covington Catholic that are going for extra credit. These are the community service people that are doing this other than going back to prison. So they work for me, and I developed a relationship with these guys, and I would start telling them, hey, we're starting a church. And they could care less. But there was a group of guys. We had 2 halfway houses, one in Newport on York Street and one in Covington, 2 Rivers. And a halfway house means I'm halfway out of prison and I'm halfway back. If I do good, I get out. If I do bad, I go back. So we invited these guys, and I don't know that they were all coming to hear about Jesus, but they liked the donuts. We picked them up on Sunday mornings. We brought them out to church. We treated them very well. And they got to see girls, which they didn't get during the day. So that was a plus for them. And they got the freedom of coming out. And it got to the point where we were so busy with this, I was going over to 2 Rivers to pick them up. I had a pretty good-sized van. Another guy had a van. And I got to share this story because this is so funny. We had too many guys to fit in a van, so one of the guys in the church had a limo. So he said, I'll pick him up in my limo. So every Sunday, Jeff would pull up at 602 York Street in Newport, and 6 or 8 guys would get into that limo feeling like real kings, and they would ride out to Wilder, pull up in front, and be let out. Well, one day, Jeff decided he needed to stop and get some gas on the way there. So he pulls into the speedway down there, and a guy in the back seat says, roll the windows down. There's my son. And they roll the window down, and the guy's sitting back there, and he goes, son, it's me. And the boy looks, and he goes, Daddy, is that you? Did you escape? He said, no, son, I'm on my way to church. And he said, in a limo? He said, it's no wonder the state of Kentucky's going broke. True story. But that was our church. That was our kind of church. They'd pull up front and let them out, and they'd come in. And it was quite an exciting time. Our church looked kind of like the bar scene at Star Wars. I mean, we had a lot of rough-looking characters there, but it was fun, and we were reaching people and changing hearts. Well, I was running the reuse center, and one of the guys that worked for me, a guy named Scott, we had to work late one day unloading a truck or something, and Scott gave me a hand and stayed late. So I said, Scott, I'll take you home. It was cold that night. So I drove him home to a really seedy part of Covington, and we pull up in front of this building, and I think, this building's deserted. There are busted windows and a bunch of shady-looking characters hanging around outside, and it didn't look very inviting. I said, is this it? He said, yep, this is where I live. Ooh, okay. So he gets out, and that bugged me all night. I'm thinking about, here's this guy trying to do right, trying to do the right thing, trying to get his life changed, trying to straighten out, and he's living in this hornet's nest of people who probably aren't doing the right thing, people who are doing drugs, people who are going to bring him down. And I thought, that's a recipe for disaster, and he's a pretty good fella. That was the night that Reset Ministries was born. I said, we got it. We are America. We are the Church of Christ. We can change that. So next day, Scott comes to work, and I said, Scott, I really want to, tell me, what's the inside of your house like, your building? He said, well, it's not as nice as the outside. I'm like, wow. He said, I have a bed, I have a dresser, I have a door that doesn't lock, so I have to take all of my stuff with me to work every day so they don't steal it, and there's a really nasty bathroom down the hallway. And I said, you know what, Scott, I think we can do better than that. So that was the year 2008. I went to Bo and I said, Bo, we got to do something about this. And Bo said, that's a really great idea, Gary, but we have no money. We still have no money. We're just getting this church started. I'll support you any way I can with proclamations, but he said, we can't spare any money. So I said, well, okay, well, I'll go to plan B. Well, it was 2008, and it was a terrible year for real estate. So there were some guys, a lot of investors had houses half done. They couldn't sell them. The market was really, really soft. So I went to an investor guy that I knew, and I said, how about I finish your house out using my materials from the reuse center, and we use some of the labor from the community service, and we start providing housing for these guys. And eventually, if it works, we'll buy this from you on a land contract. He said, great, because there was nobody else beating down his doors to get this place. So we did that. We opened up 2 houses over in Covington. They were just normal houses, 3-bedroom houses. We fixed them up as nice as we could. And I had some guys that worked with me. They started filling the houses up. But we also started filling them with people that I didn't know. Just, I was very, very naive about overcoming addiction. I didn't know anything about it really other than I wanted to help. That was my goal. I wanted to do good for God. I wanted to see lives changed, but I had no system or anything. So it went from bad to worse. We got some really bad characters in there, and it is true. Within 6 months, I had 2 of the finest crack houses in Covington, Kentucky. That was not my goal when I started out. I wanted to help people. So I decided this isn't working too well. I'm going to have to change my modus operandi here. But again, I wasn't giving up the idea. I wasn't giving up the fact that people need help. I was just giving up that wasn't the right way to do it. And it's okay to fail. I have failed so many times. It's okay. So I called my son Grant, he was working for a nonprofit, and he was loosely involved with Reset at that time. And I said, let's sit down and talk. How can we do this better? And he said, well, Dad, what's your mission? I said, well, help people. So you have to be a little more specific. How are you going to help people? What's your mission statement? What are your non-negotiables? I don't know. Help people, don't do drugs. He said, you have to be a little more elaborate even than that. So eventually, we came up with our 5 keys to Reset, and they are dignified housing, biblical truth, growth opportunities, employment opportunities, and hope for the future. He said, that's a good start. And that's what we started. It was like a big filter. Everybody that came into the house, these were the things that we wanted them to be aware of. This was going to be Reset Ministries. This was going to be part of what we did. And we didn't care if you were a Christian when you came into the house at all. But you had to be open to the things of God because you were going to hear a whole lot about it. So Grant said, okay, we need to nuke those 2 houses you have in Covington. One of them burned down. I didn't do it. It caught on fire and it burned down, and I'm like, thank you, Jesus. Well, one of the good guys lived there. His name was Donnie. Donnie's still part of Reset. Donnie's a good man. His life was forever changed by Reset Ministries. We were working down the street doing a Sunday Night Live thing, and all of a sudden I get a phone call, and it's Donnie. And he was from Texas, and he goes, Geary? He called me Geary. Geary, the house is on fire. I said, you're kidding, Donnie? He said, Geary, I'm serious as a heart attack. House is on fire. And by the time I got up there, the thing was gone. Fortunately, nobody was hurt too bad. So we got out of that, and we sold back the other one to the guy that we were going to buy it from, and it all worked out okay. And I said, okay, Grant, now, fresh start. What do we need? He said, we need a big house, one big house. And we need a laundry room, and we need a conference room, and we need a counseling room, and a big kitchen, and we need 6 to 10 bedrooms, and if we could, maybe a rec room. I said, well, that should be cheap. Okay, so I had a realtor called me. Somehow he knew we were looking, and he said, I got a house for you. And he said, okay, so I went and saw the house. This was the house. This is our Isabella house. And they were only asking $250,000 for it, which was $250,000 more than we had. But when I walked in, I knew that was going to be our house. I knew it. And they told me, they said, now we got somebody else interested. And I'm like, okay, maybe not. So I made them an offer, and I said, look, we will pay you nothing for the first year. We will do some work on the house, equivalent to about $12,000. We will buy it from you on a lease option deal in 5 years, but every dollar we put into it's coming off the price. And they're like, okay. They did it. And all of a sudden we're like, whoa, we own that house. We are so cool. Now we're really a cool ministry. And I went back to the shop, and one of the guys that worked for me is a guy named Jamie. And I was telling Jamie, I said, man, we got this house in Newport. It's so cool. It's so big, blah, blah, blah. And he said, what house is it? And I describe it. And he says, is that across from Corpus Christi Church? I said, yeah, it's their rectory. He got goosebumps. He said he was one of these guys that got out of the halfway house. In the last 30 days, they put you out on the street, and you got to go find a job. Jamie had walked past that house. And he said, I heard the Lord say, that house is going to be used for ministry. And Jamie, you're going to be part of that ministry. And sure enough, that house has been used for ministry. And Jamie worked on us with Bible studies and so forth. So it was just a cool confirmation that, yep, we're on the right track. So we did it. We jumped into the thing. Reset has grown and prospered. We have touched hundreds of lives, dozens of families over the past 10 years. And one of the things, when you start something like this, and again, I knew nothing. I had the confidence in a company's ignorance. I didn't know that I couldn't do it, so we went ahead and started. Just like we did this church. We didn't know we couldn't do it, so let's try it. Let's start. And I saw every year we were running short on funds. And I said, you know what we need, Grant? We need a banquet. And he said, that's a good idea, Dad. You'd probably be good at that. You figure out how to put a banquet on. I said, okay, so what do? You go talk to people that do banquets. So I went to another nonprofit, CareNet, who does a good job of banquets. And I said, how do you guys put on a banquet? And they said, well, we plan the day it's over, we start planning the next year. I said, so it takes a year? Yeah, I said, if you really pushed it, you could do it in 6 months. And I said, well, what would one look like if we did it in 6 weeks? And they said it'd probably be bad. I said, well, I'll take bad. You know, the goal when you do something, when you start on a trail to do something, and this is what we did with a banquet. We said every year we want to suck less. Let's do it, but let's step forward. Let's be bold, and maybe next year we won't suck as bad as we did this year. And I was the director of the video, and I had a guy named Dave Ramey who was a saint. We actually, the jail was closed down in Kenton County, so I called them and said, can I borrow the jail for a day? We want to do some filming there. And they're like, yeah, what do we care? It's an empty jail. So they loaned us a guard. So I would reenact Dave getting arrested and put in a jail, and they'd put the cuffs on behind him. And it was the worst video ever. I hope it's gone. But you know what? We had a banquet, and Bo, true to his word, said, yeah, the people of our church will support that. And he pushed it and promoted it from the pulpit. And I would say 90% of the people that came to that first banquet were people from the bridge. And we netted over $16,000 that very first year. It was incredible. It was enough to sustain us for the following year, where we added a second house. This is our York Street house. That ended up being a women's house. Now it's the men's house. I had no intention of ever ministering to women. Because I don't know anything about them. So, still, after 48 years of marriage. But fortunately, some people came along. Sherry Collins, been a true, absolute blessing. Every step of the way, we have people come alongside us in this ministry. And a lot of people are from this church. They do Bible studies, they're mentors, they're coaches, they fix meals, they do a lot. And I don't know if you even know here, but one of my goals too, I didn't want to rely on just doing banquets. I wanted banquets to help that money so that we could buy future buildings. But I wanted the day-to-day stuff, the operations, be run by what I call social enterprise. That's when a nonprofit runs a business. So I started looking into a nonprofit, social enterprise, and I thought and came up with, how about a thrift store? How hard could that be? I've done in business. I mean, open up a thrift store shouldn't be that tough. And I actually knew a guy that had a location that he was going to give me free. So we started a thrift store. And again, the church got behind us, and they brought us clothing, and we created the worst thrift store in the history of mankind. There were days that we didn't make $5. It was open, but it was in such a horrible location. So, again, that's where the perseverance come in. When you're doing good, maybe you're not doing it the right way. Maybe you got to tweak it a little bit. Maybe you got to adjust this. Maybe you got to listen to your wife and say, why don't you try it this way, dear? I said, well, what? She said, well, what if we just have periodic sales at the church and pop-up sales? And we do everything in the back of the church. And we give away a bunch of clothing to homeless people, and we take care of the people at Reset. When they need clothing, they can come in and get it. And we have sales, we take the best stuff and we sell it. And we do that 4 or 5 times a year, and we bale the rest and ship it in bales to Africa by the truckload. Well, that's better than my idea. So we have the clothing connection. Whether in the back of our church, there's the ladies. We have a great group of ladies and a couple of guys. Faithful as the days are long, they are back there sorting clothing, getting it ready, hanging it up, baling it up, getting it out. And in 2020, in a horrible year where we were on lockdown, we netted over $21,000 from the clothing connection. Thank you, Bev. Yeah, Bev heads that up. I work for her. If you ever see me here on a Saturday, it's, what do you need, dear? Yes, dear, I'll do that. And another social enterprise you may or may not be familiar with, when we started the church out here, we had 10,000 square foot of area that we weren't using. And the bank said, you guys need to do something over there to raise some money to help your cash flow. We looked into having somebody rent it, went through a lot of gyrations. It was going to cost us $300,000 to get it ready for a tenant. We might need it in 10 years, so we said, what else could we do over there? So 2 businessmen in the church put up $100,000 interest-free to build the store and locks over there. We are the only church probably in history that the Bridge Community Church owns Alexandria Self-Storage. We have 60 units over there. It's run by the church. It will be paid for. We had to borrow another $20,000. It cost us $120,000 to convert that. All that money will be paid back by August of this year. Yeah, that's pretty cool, because that means that we will net around $5,000 every month that we can use to go into missions. 40% of it is going to Reset Ministry. 60% is going to the Bridge Community Church Mission Fund outreach. Incredible. I mean, again, who does that stuff? I went for 50-50, but Bo said, well, we have some expenses. Let's do 60-40. So we went on 60-40. Good deal for everybody. But as I'm speaking, I hope you don't think it's about businesses and about buildings and stuff. It's about people. Our goal from the beginning was to touch hearts and lives of people that need Jesus. And it's done by people whose lives have already been radically saved by Jesus. And one person, I called her a couple of days ago, Kim Dawson, who is a graduate of Reset Ministries and is the outreach director here at the Bridge Church. This is a picture of Kim. Whoa! Yeah, that's Kim pre-reset. Now we got a picture of Kim. That's her buying her brand new car. I said, Kim, were you living in your car a couple of years ago? She said, I didn't have a car. I was living in an alley, and I almost got killed by a dump truck. Kim's life has been forever changed. The generosity, the perseverance of the people from this church who get up and do it week after week after week. I want to commend you for what we've been able to do. And we're going to continue to do more and more of it. Be blessed. Don't give up. All of us are facing stuff, whether it's in your family, your health, your business, your marriage, finances, whatever that thing is that is weighing down on you. Know that we serve an all-powerful God who's still in the miracle business. He took a couple of guys that were on a big losing streak and said, let's start a church that will affect 1,000 people. If he can do that, he can meet your need too. Bless you. Have a great year next year. This year will still suck. Anybody that would like to be prayed for, the prayer guys, if you'll come up front, that would be great. We appreciate it. Have a good day. Have a good rest of 2020. Bless you all.